Her voice sounded the same as always, light, almost playful, as she picked out a dress, red or black. It seemed like an ordinary evening, nothing out of the ordinary. But then came that strange look, the forced smile, the late return home with tangled hair and an unsteady walk. At first, you chalk it up to stress, fatigue, the kind of thing that happens to everyone. But the unease, it doesn't leave. It whispers at night, thunders in silence over breakfast, screams in the quiet between words. And then, a stranger's name in her phone, an unfamiliar address, a lab, a receipt, messages you can't forget. And the videos that should never exist. When the truth finally comes out, it doesn't set you free. It tears you apart. What's left when trust burns to ashes? What do you do when the person you loved turns into a nightmare you can't wake up from? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. It all began one evening at a party. "Hey, babe," Arya called out from the bedroom, her voice carefree as she sifted through hangers, pulling dresses off like she was preparing for an audition. "Which one do you prefer? The red or the black?" I leaned casually against the doorframe, offering a smile. "Go with the black. You've always gravitated toward black dresses. Red's a bit too daring for you." "Maybe daring is just what I need," she responded with a mischievous wink. In hindsight, that should have set off alarms. Arya wasn't the type to seek attention. She was methodical, dependable, the kind of woman who made lists for everything. But lately, she'd seemed off, disappearing more often, meeting up with new people I hadn't heard about. She said the event was just another networking mixer. I didn't question it. I trusted her. That night, Arya left looking stunning, her hair cascading down her back, her lips a striking, fiery red. I kissed her at the door as she prepared to leave. "Try not to have too much fun without me," I teased. "I won't," she said with a smile that, in hindsight, seemed more forced than genuine. I spent the evening flipping through TV channels, trying to distract myself. The house felt strangely empty without her, and I found myself checking my phone, hoping for a message. Around midnight, I sent a quick text. "Hey, how's it going?" "Yeah, it's great. I'll be home soon," she replied. Her response helped ease my mind a bit. But as the hours dragged on, the unease settled in. By 2 a.m., I could hardly keep track of the movie. Something felt off. Arya wasn't the type to stay out so late without checking in. I stared at her message, debating whether to call her. "Relax, Kyle." "She's fine," I muttered under my breath. But by 3 a.m., my stomach twisted with anxiety. I found myself pacing around the living room, thoughts spiraling into worst-case scenarios. Was she all right? Was she safe? I reached for my phone to call, but just then I heard the front door creak open. I froze. Arya staggered inside, her hair a tangled mess, lipstick smeared across her cheek, her heels dangling loosely from her fingers. The sharp scent of alcohol hit me as she closed the door behind her. "Jesus, Arya!" I exclaimed, rushing to her as she nearly tripped over the rug. "What happened?" She let out a drunken laugh, breathless, and waved me off. "I'm fine," she slurred, her voice thick and slow. "You've definitely had more than your fair share," I remarked, steadying her. Her eyes were glazed, mascara streaked down her face in smudges, as if she had been crying, or sweating, or both. I guided her to the kitchen for water and then helped her to bed, chalking it up to one of those wild nights. Everyone needs to unwind sometimes, right? The next morning, Arya barely said a word. She winced as she sat down for breakfast, as if even moving was painful. "You okay?" I asked, pouring coffee into her mug. "Yeah, just a bad hangover," she muttered. But as the week went on, something seemed off. Arya was distant, irritable, and her mind always seemed to be elsewhere. Then there was her phone. She began keeping it face down, never letting it out of her sight, even bringing it to the bathroom with her. One evening, as we sat in silence watching TV, I finally asked, "Is everything okay?" "Of course." "Why wouldn't it be?" she snapped, her tone defensive and tinged with irritation. I dropped it. I shouldn't have. A week later, I came home earlier than usual. As I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, I overheard Arya's voice coming from the bedroom. Her tone was sharp, serious. I stopped just outside the door, listening. "Yes, that works. I'll be there around 11, she said. A pause followed as the muted voice on the other end spoke. "No, I'd rather keep it discreet for now," Arya continued. "Yes. Thank you. See you Thursday." Her words were vague, but it didn't take much to figure it out. She was arranging some sort of medical appointment. My stomach turned. Why hadn't she told me anything? If something was wrong, why hadn't she come to me? I knocked lightly and entered. "Hey, is everything all right?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Arya jumped, startled. "Kyle, I didn't hear you come in," she said quickly, slipping her phone into her pocket and forcing a bright smile. "Everything's fine. Just talking to a friend." I nodded, but the suspicion lingered. Something wasn't right. Her voice had sounded formal, guarded, nothing like a casual conversation with a friend. "Oh?" I asked lightly. "Planning something fun?" "Not really," she responded, almost too quickly. "Just organizing something for next week." She busied herself with folding laundry, avoiding my gaze. A sense of unease lingered in my mind, a nagging thought that refused to fade. If the conversation had been as casual as it seemed, why was Arya acting so distant? I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface, though I tried to brush it aside. "All right," I muttered, heading toward the door, just checking in. Her response was tight, her voice strained. "Thanks." As I walked away, my mind buzzed with doubts and questions. Something was off. Arya and I had always been open with one another. Nothing like this had ever existed between us. If she'd had a doctor's appointment or was worried about something health-related, she would have told me. But what if it was nothing? The thought gnawed at me, but the doubt still crept in, suggesting there was something she wasn't ready to reveal. When the day of her appointment arrived, I made up my mind. It felt wrong, even intrusive, but the anxiety clawing at me left me no choice. I needed to know the truth. At around 10:30 a.m., Arya left the house, dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, with her purse hanging off her shoulder. After a moment's hesitation, I grabbed my keys and followed her, keeping a careful distance. I tailed her across town, staying unnoticed, until she parked in front of a small, anonymous health clinic. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a regular doctor's office, it was a lab, specializing in testing. My mind raced, each thought worse than the last. Arya spent an hour inside, and when she finally emerged, she seemed tense. Her posture was stiff, and she walked quickly, almost as if she was trying to escape her own thoughts. She climbed into her car, completely unaware of my presence just a few spots away. That evening, after dinner, she told me she was going to take a shower. As soon as I heard the shower running, I slipped into the bedroom and grabbed her purse. My hands shook as I rifled through it, praying I wouldn't find anything. But there, tucked into a side pocket, was a folded piece of paper. I pulled it out and unfolded it, scanning the receipt for laboratory services, an STD test panel. The ground seemed to slip from under me. A wave of nausea hit me as the realization crashed into me. Arya had taken an STD test. Why? Was she sick? Did she suspect I had been unfaithful, or had she herself made a mistake she regretted? Clutching the receipt, I heard the shower stop. Panic surged through me, and I quickly shoved the paper back into her purse before retreating to the living room, pretending to scroll through my phone. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I knew whatever the truth was, it was only a matter of time before it surfaced. Later that night, Arya fell asleep early. She claimed to be feeling unwell, and I didn't press her, though my mind was a whirlwind. I couldn't stop thinking about that receipt. What was she hiding? Why had she needed an STD test? When I was sure she was asleep, her steady breathing lulling me into a false sense of calm, I quietly slipped out of bed. I grabbed her phone from the nightstand and sat down on the couch, the cold glow of the screen illuminating my face. I hated myself for invading her privacy, but I needed answers more than I needed to feel at peace. Her phone was unlocked, something I never questioned. I opened her messages and started scrolling. Most were simple chats with friends and colleagues, but then I found a thread with a contact I didn't recognize, a person named Julie. At first, the messages seemed harmless, with Arya thanking Julie for inviting her to a party. But as I scrolled down, an unease began to spread. "Girl, you were wild that night. I still can't believe you did that," Julie had written. "Please don't remind me. I was so drunk," Arya replied. "I can barely remember half of it," she added. Then Julie's message made my blood run cold. "Well, I've got the receipts if you ever forget." A chill settled in my bones. I kept scrolling, my hands trembling, until I found it. A series of photos and videos from Julie. The first video was grainy footage of Arya in a crowded room, swaying to music. A man's arm was around her waist, pulling her close, and she didn't seem to fight it. The next photo showed her laughing, head thrown back, with two men standing nearby, their expressions unmistakable. Then I came across the video that shattered everything. Arya was in a bedroom, the camera shaky as she stumbled, laughing, slurring her words. 3 men surrounded her, touching her, kissing her, pulling her onto the bed. She didn't resist. I froze, unable to process what I was seeing. My chest tightened, and the air felt heavy, thick with the realization of what I was witnessing. This wasn't just a drunken mistake. This was something far worse, something unimaginable. But I knew I couldn't let this go. I wasn't sure what I would do, but I couldn't let this truth slip away. Trembling, I forwarded the entire thread, photos, videos, everything to my phone. Once I was sure everything was securely saved, I went back to her phone, carefully deleting the conversation. If she checked, she would never know I had uncovered the truth. I sat in the stillness of the room, the weight of the phone heavy in my grasp, the minutes dragging on without any sense of time. How could this be happening? The woman I had cherished, the one I believed I truly understood, had done something so unimaginable. A part of me screamed for answers, for a confrontation, to demand the truth from her. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not yet. I carefully placed the phone back on the nightstand, just as it had been, and sank into the suffocating darkness of the living room. My mind raced, tangled in thoughts that would not let me rest. This was no longer about a simple test result. This was a betrayal that went far beyond what I had ever feared. I couldn't pretend that it didn't matter. The truth was out there, and it was only a matter of time before I would have to face her and everything she had done. Sleep evaded me that night. The truth hung in the air, suffocating me with its weight. The images, the messages, everything that had unraveled my world gnawed at me, leaving me restless. I couldn't keep it all inside. She would have to answer for this. When Arya woke up the next morning, I remained silent. Wordlessly, I pulled my phone from my pocket and began forwarding the images and videos to her family, her friends, everyone who needed to know the truth. I wouldn't let her continue the facade, pretending to be someone she was not. She came into the living room, her gaze falling on her phone, and froze. Horror spread across her face as she realized what I had done. What did you do?" Her voice trembled, a mixture of fear and disbelief. "I told them everything," I replied flatly, keeping my voice devoid of emotion. "Now everyone knows who you really are. They know about you and your little secret." "Kyle, please," she pleaded, taking a step forward, but I stopped her with a raised hand. No, I said, the anger rising within me like a fire that could not be controlled. You don't get to hide anymore. You don't get to lie and act like I haven't figured out what you've done. She shook her head, desperation in her eyes. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake. I was drunk and— No, I interrupted, the fury burning through me. You knew exactly what you were doing. You were fully aware, and now you will face the consequences. Her face crumpled as tears began to fall. Kyle, please. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. A mistake? I snapped, my disbelief boiling over. You didn't just make a mistake. You cheated on me, with 3 different men, at the same time. And now you think you can just brush it off like it's nothing? I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered, her sobs becoming more frantic. I swear I didn't mean for it to happen. I stared at her, the numbness in my chest consuming me. You didn't want to hurt me? You didn't care about anything except your own selfish desires. Do you have any idea how I felt when I saw those videos? Do you understand how you made me feel? Like a fool. She reached out, but I pulled my hand away. No, I said coldly. You don't get to fix this. Not now. Not ever. I'll do anything, Kyle. I'll go to therapy. I'll prove to you it was just a mistake. Please, she begged, her voice desperate. You don't understand, I replied, my voice as cold as ice. I know about the STD test. The one you took because you knew something was wrong. And now, I'm the one left picking up the pieces of the mess you made. Her eyes widened in shock as she realized I knew about the test. Kyle, I wasn't thinking. It just happened, but I never wanted to hurt you. No more excuses, I cut her off, my decision final. It's over. I'm filing for divorce. Her face collapsed in disbelief, and she stepped back, as though my words had struck her physically. You're serious? She whispered. Yes, I said firmly, my resolve unwavering. You destroyed this. You destroyed us. And now, I'm done. She crumpled onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. Please, Kyle, don't leave me. I love you. I loved you too, I said quietly, turning to leave. But that's over now. As I walked out the door, an emptiness settled over me. The woman I had loved, the woman I thought I knew, was gone. The person before me had become a stranger, and I wasn't about to waste another moment of my life trying to repair what she had shattered. Soon, the results came in. Aria's test was positive. I went for my own test, dreading the outcome. Thankfully, my results came back negative. Her family and friends were stunned by the photos and videos I had shared. They couldn't believe the woman they had known was capable of such betrayal. Her perfect image was gone, and soon she was left isolated, forced to face the consequences of her actions. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. The legal battles had drained me, but Aria's actions were undeniable. She received nothing from the divorce, no alimony, no assets. I wouldn't let her benefit from the destruction she had caused. Over time, I focused on rebuilding my life. Aria tried therapy, but it was too little, too late. She called, begging for forgiveness, but by then, I was already gone. Slowly, the calls stopped. I moved on. She became a distant memory, and the pain of her lies and betrayal began to fade with time. Life continued, and for the first time in a long while, I felt free. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.